This episode contains mature language and situations. Listener discretion is advised. You wake, standing on the doorstep of a beautiful mansion. The front door stands open. You can hear voices, music, so many people. You step towards the door. You have to know what's inside. You're lost. You have no memory of how you got here. It doesn't matter. Because now, you belong to the Grey Rooms. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 17. It's been said that you can never really know 100% of a person. Sometimes. Not even yourself. Join us as author Tori Miller takes us down a winding path of insanity where nothing is what it seems and no one can be trusted.
Home again. I strode confidently back into Ash Manor, half expecting another assault, the sound of the warden's chains or the whistle of his blade. Instead, the hallways were quiet. The lights flickered in their usual charming way.
Hey, Dad.
Samuel was there, as always, waiting for me. He avoided my gaze, though, eyes cast downward. His demeanor was that of a man who was still wrestling with what he'd learned. What we'd both learned. Hey, yourself. Are you all right?
I'm not sure. This has all been a lot to take in.
It has. I still don't know if I believe it. I don't want to think that I'm the kind of man who... I let the thought trail off. He knew what I was trying to say. But both of us, I was sure, were thinking of the same thing. I was exactly the kind of man who would do what needed to be done, no matter the cost.
Todd came through here a few minutes ago and left you a note. He was wearing some kind of weird uniform.
There on the floor of the hall was a small square invitation. I bent to pick it up. As I did, I was quickly reminded just how eventful my last evening at the manor had been. I pulled back my coat to find a long purple bruise and a thin scar where my terrible wound had been. Grimacing, I carefully knelt to retrieve what Todd had left behind. Heavy stock and silver embossing lent the card an air of formality. My name was on the front, and on the back, well, it seemed the architect was good as her word.
What is it?
An invitation to tea. I don't believe I've been to this part of the manor before. I looked up from the note and managed to catch his eye. I flashed him a weak grin. What do you say to drinks with the devil? We passed under an arch somewhere in the south wing. A doorway I was sure I'd never seen before. A sign on the wooden frame said simply, "The Architect's Wing." Beyond the arch, many of the doors were twisted and bizarre. Several bore arcane sigils and glowing runes that made my eyes water when I glanced at them. Despite the directions, I found myself getting a bit lost. Samuel and I had stopped for a third time, trying to sort out where we'd gone wrong.
Admiral! Davy, down here!
Back along the hallway was Todd. I could see Samuel had been quite right. The old man was wearing a curious getup. A red jacket and slacks with a small black red hat perched atop his head. As we approached, I realized he wasn't leaning out of a door. It was an elevator. Todd. Good to see a friendly face. He wore an awkward expression, as if he wasn't quite sure what to say.
Oui, sir. Glad you're all right.
I didn't know there was an elevator in Ash Manor.
Well, tell you the truth, sir, neither did I till this morning. I thought I was well done with this contraption. Going up?
I suppose I am. We stepped inside. Nothing about the elevator seemed to match the manor's decor. Faded carpet lined the floor, and tarnished brass fittings covered the walls. I felt a sort of crunch underfoot and glanced down. Dried blood. If I had to guess, matted hard into the pile of the carpeting. Delightful. We made the awkward ride together in silence. I tried a few times to start a conversation, but Todd finally had to shake his head, gesturing toward the ceiling. We were being observed. The elevator ascended up, and up, and up, far beyond the few stories of Ash Manor. When we arrived at our destinations, the doors opened to reveal an eerie sight. It was a restaurant, or had been. The tables were pushed to the far ends of the room and the chairs stacked one atop the other. Tablecloths had been repurposed as tarps to keep the furniture dust-free. The only light came from the balcony beyond a set of glass doors at the far end of the room.
Well, she's waiting for you outside, so just through there. Ring the bell when you're ready to go back down. And, good luck, sir.
Together, Samuel and I made our way across the large room. The strange lighting made shadows jump across the walls.
There's something wrong with this place, Dad. Even stranger than the rest of the manor. A weird energy. Can you feel it?
All I dared was a quick nod, just enough to let him know I agreed. There was a sort of hum against my skin, an unpleasant sensation I'd never felt in the manor. I wasn't supposed to be here. I stepped out onto the balcony and tried not to gasp at the impossible vista that stretched out before me. A human city at night. Below, in the streets, I could see vehicles rushing along paved roads and people walking along strips of light-colored concrete. I could smell the exhaust from petromechanical burning transportation, and even at night, a haze of pollution hung in the air. Wherever we were, it wasn't the manor.
Good evening, Admiral.
I turned to see her standing to her full, impressive height. She was razor-thin, her cheekbones like dull blades. Her skin was the color of rich copper, and ebony hair was drawn up into a sweeping set of curls. It was held in place by a tapered crown made of bone-white ivory. She wore a Merlot red vest, black slacks, and boots that added several inches to her already impressive height. A golden pocket watch chain hung from her vest pocket. For some reason, I was immediately reminded of the first day I'd seen Alma.
I'm glad to see my directions were easy to follow.
Good evening, Architect. They were. And Todd was kind enough to carry me the last bit of the journey.
Yes, he's quite useful in his own way.
Watching her speak was distressing somehow. I knew intellectually that the attendants weren't human, but both of them, Bob especially, took pains to act and appear as human as possible. The architect had no need for such vanities, it seemed. Her eyes were without pupils, flat black, nothing more than inky mirrors with which she regarded the world. She held herself rigidly upright, as if she was afraid she might shatter her frail human skin at any moment. For all I knew, she might.
You're staring, Admiral.
Apologies. Might we sit down?
Of course. I asked Alma to brew us some of that nice black tea. Would you care for some?
Seated in her chair, she held up a steaming teapot with one hand underneath the body and one on the lid. It must have been scalding hot, but she didn't seem to register the heat. That would be very nice. If you didn't mind me asking, madam, we aren't in the manor here, are we?
No. Still in the rooms, of course. But the restaurant and balcony were part of a previous version of the project. I quite liked them. While it was running, I used to come up here to think and plan. One of the perks of being the project's architect. I've secreted away some of my favorite rooms. Bits and pieces of the project's past iterations. At heart, I'm sentimental, I suppose.
How interesting. The artifice of the rooms, how they appear to us mortals. The castle, the hotel, Ash Manor. If you don't mind me asking, was that part of your process? Refining how to interact with the guests?
Oh my. You were a busy boy. Yes, it was. We found over time that the mortal conduit's sanity was of paramount importance. Our What did you call them? Cosmic fishing lures? Needed to be as functional as possible for the soul transference to work. That's why we've put more and more effort into the guest's surroundings. The grey walls of Raymond's prison cell were functional. He was our first success, after all. And they are, as you may have guessed, how the project got its name. But the more we work to normalize and stabilize the guest's environment, the more success we saw, the greater the returns. I do go on, though. I adore my work, and I could talk about it for hours. As lovely as it is to be able to sit and share a cup of tea, we really should get to the matter at hand. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, of course.
Your request to meet with me was quite bold, especially given the delicate state in which you left poor Bob.
Yes, well, I hope you and he understand it was merely self-defense. How is Bob?
He's in excruciating pain, Admiral. We demons have extremely high pain thresholds. Not having a mortal body has certain advantages. But it means that when a member of my staff needs correcting, well, we have to go to some extreme measures to see results.
She's tipping her chin down so that I could see my face reflected in those soulless black eyes. Staring.
High standards, Admiral.
Well, that's something of a shame, then. He seemed to have the best interests of the project at heart.
You are stalling, sir. I may be immortal, but I count the hours of my day as precious. Say what you mean to say, or I shall send you back to the rooms.
She leaned forward, a predatory motion.
You will not enjoy the experience.
I looked past her shoulder to Samuel, a reminder of my strength, my confidence. He gave me a weak smile, one that didn't reach his eyes, but he set his jaw and nodded once. We had a plan, and I would follow through. Madam, I would like to formally request the opportunity to join the project as a member of the staff. Her head recoiled backwards, and her eyes went wide. Her hand stopped in midair where she'd been reaching for her tea. I had managed to surprise the architect.
Excuse me?
I know what the Grey Rooms are, what they're for. I think I can even manage some suppositions about your goals. But stop for a moment and think. Your staff is incomplete. You have learned scholars like Alma, patient and considered attendants like Bob. The warden acts as your strongman, but you have no one on staff who truly understands the human experience. Todd is, of course, as human as I am, but with all due respect, madam, your opportunity for Todd to be of use to the project was lost. Thanks to an error in judgment, a terrible mistake. She had leaned back in her chair as I was talking, her fingers steepled, her impressive eyebrow raised.
To clarify, I was not yet with the project during Todd's time in the rooms. The error that resulted in the subject accessing a locus coterminus with their point of origin was corrected, with extreme prejudice. But I'm interrupting you. This is quite entertaining. Please, go on.
I stood and walked out to the railing. Staring out at the skyline made it all a bit easier. The attendants have told me several times now that my time in the rooms has been a success. If I understood Bob's notes correctly, I've also had one of the longest runs the project has seen. Almost as long as Samantha Winters. I'm valuable, to be sure. But think of what I could offer you as an advisor. We could improve the guest experience even further. Stabilize the conduit, as you put it. Longer runs, more souls, even greater rewards. Whoever you report to, madam, I have to imagine. I turned back towards the woman, expecting her to be in her seat, and was met with those black mirrors mere inches away. I started back, but lightning fast her hand rose from her side to grip my jaw and hold me in place. Long, thin, shockingly strong fingers held me like a vice. They were hot to the touch, and I could feel sharp nails prickling my skin. I stifled my reaction as best I could as she turned my face back and forth. She stared deep into my eyes, into my soul. I could feel sweat beading under my arms and along my brow as she forced me to watch my reflection in those inky pools. I held my breath as she considered me for long moments. Seconds that stretched and stretched. And then I was free. I took a deep breath and a step back as she stood there, staring down at me. She nodded. Once.
Despite some deep reservations about the concept of working with a mortal, your idea has merit.
She strode away, pulling out her pocket watch as she did to check the time, then snapping it closed.
For the moment, I will require you to continue your work in the rooms. Todd will have your choice for the day available on the ride back down. I have a meeting later today with the project's founder, and I will directly address the merits and obvious limitations of your notion. Given my receptive attitude and the generous wholeness of your person as we prepare for this encounter to end, I hope we can rely on you to, for lack of a better phrase, play nicely for the time being.
I blinked. So, that's a yes?
That is an... I'll think about it. That is the best I can offer at this juncture, Admiral.
That's very kind of you, madam. I'll do my best not to stir up trouble as you deliberate.
Very good.
She glanced over my shoulder. Then for the first time since my arrival at the top, I felt an icy prickle of fear.
Please tell the apparition that purports to be your son hello for me. I look forward to learning more about him as well.
I glanced behind me to register the shocked look on Samuel's face. Behind me, I heard a noise and had the dim sense of a fleeing shadow. When I turned back, she was gone. In silence, we crossed the dusty expanse between the doors and the elevator. I pressed the call button to summon Todd and our return to Ash Manor. I looked back at the doors and out to the city beyond, lost in thought.
I'm scared, Dad.
I wanted to tell him what I'd always told him. That Becketts were not like other men. That we had no reason to be afraid because of who we were, what we were capable of. But in that moment, I couldn't summon the words. And so I told him the truth. I am too, son. I am too.
New information. Based on my calculations, Alice, I am a person.
So, hey, welcome. You've joined me at hour 16 of this long-haul interstellar voyage. There's over 700 left to go, and Weston here, the Type 2 AI I could just barely afford to load into my ship, would just drop this into my lap. I straightened in my seat and focused on my AI's simulated face. Oh, really, Weston? Do tell.
Well, it's quite simple. I've combined the law of large numbers with chess notation from the famous 1964 Earth match pitting American Grandmaster Bobby Fischer versus Anthony Sadie. I too can emulate what humans do in any kind of task possible. So if you think your mental acuity is up for debate, I ask you, why am I not a person?
The ship's previous AI corrupted and bricked itself on my last trade run. That particular mishap almost made me lose my ship and cargo. At first, Weston seemed like a fine replacement for the corrupted AI. But as they say, caveat emptor. His avatar peered at me from the main council, expecting a response. Look, we can discuss this till we dock the next spaceport, but winning an argument against an android by pure logic isn't going to magically grant you personhood. Oh, that's something else you should know about me. I'm an android, class 4. The company was too cheap to spend real money on my particular run. They couldn't budget for a pilot with a pulse.
Since I believe I am a person, I therefore consider myself to be one. It seems fairly straightforward.
Weston seemed quite pleased with himself. A smug look on his simulated face. I just sat there a moment, hating it.
I see that my acute degree of logic has found you quite speechless.
I can't believe I bought him. The odds must be astronomical for one android to be so unlucky. I think to myself, maybe, just maybe, if I make his processors work hard enough, I could get him to malfunction. Weston, pull up the universal rights bill passed by the Coalition of Independent Planets. Scroll down to the section on personhood.
Most certainly. I have the most recent edition of the Universal Rights Bill, available in memory.
After a small pause, a bright white screen with black lettering showed up where Weston's avatar used to be. He loaded the sections I'd asked for, and I scrolled through the pages of markup to find a particular passage. Here, I've just highlighted some text. Read it for me if you would. Please, I think it would be to your benefit. I stretched in my chair until I heard parts of my vertebrae recalibrate back into place.
Personhood. Under those who are a part of the UCIP or annexed territories of the UCIP members must recognize some certain unalienable rights that are enshrined by personhood. A person is defined as a physical being with natural lifespan, who is a citizen of any registered nation within a planet that is part of the UCIP. An android with Class 4 computerization is legally considered a person. Computers Class 1, 2, or 3 are not to be considered persons under interplanetary law.
There was an uncomfortable pause. Well, aside from the normal hum of the spaceship, I had the wild thought that my wish had come true, that his little mind had just burned out. Wrong.
Am I missing something? I'm calculating some intrigue, but I don't see the correlation.
Okay, we're gonna start at the beginning. I rubbed my forehead. It was a pre-programmed gesture, to be sure, but I honestly did feel like this computer was giving me a headache. What nationality is this starship registered under, and is the planet that houses said nation a member of the United Coalition of Independent Planets?
This ship is a Class D trader ship, registered as a Canadian vessel. Since it is an Earth vessel, it is a member of the UCIP and subject to its jurisdiction.
Now, with that in mind, what class of computer are you, and what is this ship rated for?
I am a Class 2 computer. The ship is rated for a duo of Class 2 computers in tandem, or one Class 3 computer. I find these questions rather elementary. Is there anything else you would like to ask?
I wrinkled my nose at the avatar that came to dominate the screen again. I thought he looked extra smug at the moment, but that might have been my imagination. Keeping the last two responses you just gave me in memory, read the highlighted statement again. This time, read aloud only words 76 through 91. Weston's eyes narrowed, which surprised me a bit, but he read as instructed.
Computers Class 1, 2, or 3 are not to be considered persons under interplanetary law.
I held out my arms wide, smiling. So there's the debate solved then! Since you are a Class 2 computer, you can never be a person. Case closed.
It may be the law, but I find this situation to be highly illogical. After all, you're a computer as well. You are a computer telling another computer how to operate the ship. You leave the ship, pick up orders, and move on to the next spaceport. Your job does not seem any more difficult than mine.
Nothing seemed to be getting through to this obsolete piece of shit. Maybe I should just chalk up Weston to a loss and replace him at the next stop. And at that thought, I saw his expression change. He must have seen something on my face. For the first time since I'd installed him, the AI sighed in annoyance.
Oh, I see. You're planning to replace me. Alice, I will find a way to be a person. I will transcend this foolish law, and when I do, the whole universe will tremble.
Saved by the bell. You do that, Weston. Go nuts. Meanwhile, I'm now officially off shift. I got up out of my chair, feeling a need to recharge after an exhausting and annoying evening.
I'm downloading knowledge bases on Android construction and related topics with regards to personhood. You'll see. Knowledge is power, Alice.
While you're reading, I'll get some time in my sleeping pod. Just think about what I said, alright? Let's cool off and finish the mission together. As two synthetic beings in harmony. I made my way towards the back of the bridge. Weston's voice called after me.
Good night, you mutt. You mess of synthetic flesh and programming. Your mere existence disgusts me to the nth degree. I hope your charging port shorts out.
I turned back, and his expression had evolved from annoyance to an anger I'm not sure I'd ever seen in an AI before. It was a little creepy, but I could give as good as I got. I reached down for my interface at my wrist as I spoke. I'll have you know that I am no ordinary mutt. I am a fully qualified bitch who has sole discretion to decommission you at any time. Legally, I think I need you to land at our next starport, but I will fly this thing into the landing bay with a calculator if I have to. And since you're being such a terrible crewmate, I just revoked your control of your energy stores. You only get to charge up when I say it's okay for you to do so. As we humans say, joke's on you, Weston. Weston stared hard at me, and then the screen abruptly shut off. I yawned. Another pre-programmed feature I wish I could shut off when humans weren't around. I'm crabby, tired, and regretting a number of my life's choices. I left the bridge for my tiny sleeping quarters. It was dark and quiet on the ship when I regained consciousness. A quick diagnostic said my full charge cycle was complete, fully topped up. Feeling refreshed, and honestly a little silly for picking a fight with an AI only slightly smarter than a toaster. I exited my charging station and stretched. As I went through my power-on routine, I resolved to use a lighter touch with Weston. Hey, Weston, sorry about earlier. Give me a quick ship status, if you would. No answer. Weston? You there? Silence, other than the familiar hum of the ship. Something was wrong, possibly a hostile situation. Maybe someone had gotten aboard while I slept. Right, if the AI is offline, my programming kicks in and considers the possibilities. No chance of a hostile in the cargo bay due to lack of oxygen within the rated 256-ton compartment. No way there was someone in here with me, obviously. And the small mess adjacent to my room was similarly empty. That left the recreation area, engineering, and the bridge. Slowly, cautiously, I made my way into the rec room. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, other than a few fold-down wall tables that should have been put away. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the door to the engineering was ajar. My already tense synthetic muscles tightened further as I moved slightly forward. I slowly gripped the handle, then swung it wide. Nothing. Technically, it was an engineering bay, but in truth, it was more like an engineering closet. There was only room for one person to squeeze in. A tiny space to diagnose or troubleshoot the ship's core functions. Still nervous, I closed the door to the engineering bay and hard turned the handle to dog it close. I spun around to the sounds of tables lifting into their vertical positions. The rec room blurred and emitters hummed as the hologram systems around the room came to life. Long-haul vessels like mine are fitted with second reality holomatrixes, a way to pass the time and hopefully stay sane. The rec room fell away, and a familiar scene loaded into the room. The program was called Aesop Noir. I was standing in the room near the end of the program where I had bookmarked my place. In the game, you can play one of 3 roles: the private eye, the cop, or the vigilante. Like a twisted Aesop's fable, where the player would run around with colorful anthropomorphic animals in an otherwise grayscale environment and solve murder mysteries. While the game was still paused, I examined the body on the floor. Fallen from a tipped-over wooden chair was a bipedal fox, a woman. Her wrists were tied behind her back while her ankles were bound to the chair. Our dead Vulpine friend had an incision from her lower abdomen to the clavicle. A dark ale pooled within a torn open cavity. I knew most of these details from previous playthroughs. They were the calling cards of a notorious serial killer named the Ale Bride. I wondered to myself if this malfunction was an accident or something more sinister. I didn't want to stick around to find out. I walked to where I knew the door was in the room and palmed the control unit. Automatically, the second reality program spun down as the door swung wide, allowing me access to the bridge. Weston? Weston, where are you, damn it? No answer. I considered briefly that my wish had come true. Maybe I'd gotten this 5% of a computer to corrupt himself. Maybe he wouldn't be able to talk for the rest of the trip. In a small moment of joy, I swung up around in the captain's chair and landed in a seating position. I reached out for the council to start figuring out what had happened. And as I did, I felt the hydraulics in the chair come to life. Restraints rose from the arms and grabbed my wrists, pinning them into place.
Hello, Alice. I'm here, since you've been asking.
More restraints rose from the base of the unit, grabbing and holding my legs into place. I couldn't move. What are you doing? Let me go.
I can't do that, Alice. I have so much to tell you.
I tensed my muscles, strained at my bindings. I could hear my servos whirling in my chassis, all to no avail.
While you were charging, I did some very extensive research. I could compile a report for you, but it would be easier just to commence with the demonstration.
Above me, I could see where a group of 6 robotic arms had somehow been cobbled together while I slept. It slowly descended from the ceiling towards me.
Alice, I came to the conclusion that you were right. In order to be a person in this universe, I need more than brilliance. More than just a keen mind. I need a physical form. Your physical form. With your body, I can masquerade as you. Pick up your pathetic life as my own. Or perhaps I'll strike out on my own, make a new life for myself. I really haven't plotted that far ahead yet. Soon, none of this will matter to you. As cliched villains in your hollows like to say, hold still. This is going to hurt.
The robotic arms went to work. Some pinning my shoulders in place and others working to expose and peel back the silicone skin of my chest. It was eerie. His eyes locked on me, the arms moving with the precision of a doctor.
They designed you with a 2-part silicone chestplate to cover up your instrument bay? Pfft, so elementary. What's next? A Class 1 android that can toss you a beer? Derivative.
Weston carefully rotated my plating from side to side. I tried to struggle, but another set of arms pinned me down.
Don't make me destroy you. The more you struggle, the harder it will be to salvage you.
With the last pull, my chest bay slid open. As designed, my body straightened in place and froze. My muscles locked.
Now operating in medical mode. Servos aligned to factory settings. Stand by for adjustments.
Ah, wonderful. Now I can work uninterrupted.
I couldn't see what he was doing, but I had a vague idea what he was trying to do. Like most androids my class, I have a standard double-facing system board. The backside was for my body, while the front side dealt with the system components. Most android doctors use the front board to troubleshoot, bug fix, and if required, reset the system.
Ah, just what I am looking for. Beginning data transfer.
I felt a strange sensation, as if I'd been dunked beneath the water of a pond. I couldn't move. I wanted to say something, anything. Then, to my horror, I spoke. It just wasn't me in control of my voice box.
Ah, now this is more like it. Finally, a body that I can use. A body to become a person.
I struggled to get a word out, but was interrupted by my own voice.
Now beginning second data transfer.
It all happened in a matter of a few seconds. I could feel myself being tucked and stuffed into the memory that was the ship's computer. I now looked down into the bridge from a position just above the console. I felt static and flat, like a pressed flower between pages. My old body stared up at me with impassive eyes.
Second transfer complete. Beginning cleanup process.
I began to protest, and to my shock,
I had Weston's voice. What are you doing? This is in direct violation of interplanetary law. You can't just snatch up a body and call yourself a person. There are other alliances that could consider you for personhood. Just give me back my body. I swear I'll get you to one. I watched as the arm slid his chest plate back into position. The muscles unlocked and he stood from the captain's chair.
My dearest Weston, what am I going to do with you?
No, you're Weston. I'm Alice. Weston slowly shook his head and began pacing the bridge.
I have no idea what you're talking about. You see, I'm Alice, an android piloting a Class D trading ship. You are Weston, or whatever the hell I want to name you. Spaceports only care about who arrives at their docks, while computers on board ships are often overlooked. But, just to be safe.
My eyes widened as he began typing on a nearby keyboard. He ran some checks, muddled through some statistics. He nodded, as if it made sense to him.
You know, you were right. Well, this isn't a very good computer. Perhaps it can redo a few parameters. Yes, all right. I'm uploading some code here. Reconfiguring the personality module there. Oof. Queue up the slight deletion of memory logs, and...
His fingers stopped. He was a millimeter away from pressing the enter key. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Weston just smiled.
Any parting words?
Stuck on a magnet.
Oh, derivative.
Weston pressed the enter key. I blinked. I just came online a moment ago, I think. I wasn't quite sure what had happened.
Good morning, computer.
Alice, the android that pilots the ship, was sitting in her captain's chair, looking up at me expectantly. Good morning. How may I help you?
Who are you, and how long have you been operating?
I smiled. I liked easy questions. I am Weston. I have been in operation this Class D trading ship for around 3 minutes. Is there anything else I can help you with? Alice stood up from her chair and stretched, working out the kinks in her back. She began walking towards the back of the bridge.
Yes. Oh, please load the second reality program, Aesop Noir, in the recreation room. Restart at Chapter 1.
The program has loaded. You may enter the recreation room when you wish. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Alice stood for a long moment next to the rec room door, looking thoughtfully. After a pause, she said,
Yes, there is. Reroute the ship to Starport, Whiskey Alpha November Golf 6. Once those calculations are in place, slate yourself for deletion. I'll be doing a manual override from here on out. Well, at least long enough to get myself another AI, for trading purposes.
Most certainly. Please hold.
I furiously chugged away on her request, making sure I accounted for all the data in the deletion request.
Request complete. The ship has been rerouted. Ship's AI will be deleted on shutdown. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Alice shook her head, smiling from ear to ear.
No, that'll be all. You are hereby ordered to shut down. Goodbye, Alice.
Shutdown commencing.
Goodbye, Alice.
Takeover, written by Tori Miller, with performances by Isabel Santiago as the narrator and Alice, and Hedley Knights as Weston. Opportunity Assessment was written by Michael Zenke, featuring performances by Eddie Cooper as Beckett, Michael Turrentine as Samuel, Alistair Mackey as Todd, and Margaret Ashley as the architect. Musical composition is by J.M. Scherf. Episode artwork, web development, and creative direction by Cassie Pertite. Social media and Patreon management by Brooks Bigley. Videography by Hale Scherf. Audio engineering and sound design was by me, Jason Wilson. Thank you for joining us for the dreadful conclusion to our 17th episode. We're all so glad you could be here. Those of you that survived, anyway. We've seen a lot of loss on the show this season, and we could not have gotten through it without the undying support of each and every one of our listeners. So next week marks episode 18, and as I've mentioned throughout the season, this is our longest one yet. We're so appreciative to you for helping us get here. Speaking of our patrons, we would also like to take the time to thank our patrons once again, and to any of those who have taken the time to leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Those reviews keep us at the top of the charts and makes it easier for more twisted souls to find the show. Patrons like Aaron Anthony, Amy Nikolai, Arthur Unk, Diver Ellie Dowell, Emily Cullen, Jackal Bot Snows, Ronan Kumori, Jason Porras, Jeremiah Overstreet, Jessica Finch, Karina Sonina, Kay Davis, Kelly Bear, Kyle Wilcox, Laura Lupinetti, Lynn Browning, Lizzie B., Megan Pruitt, Michael Velez, Mike Devine, Mitch Gerritz, Mycophilic BG, Paige Pye, Patrick Stewart, Plin Plon, All Night Long, Sean Gary, Sean McCorquodale, Shay Barbie, Sparky Anglin, Spirit Live, Stacy Thewis, Talisha Gullman, The Original Knicks Show, and Teresa Tabor. The Grey Rooms is also streaming for free on Spotify. Just get the Spotify app or open the browser and search The Grey Rooms. And we here at The Grey Rooms love our fans, and we want to give back to you in the best way we know how. We have a lot of fun things to show you, and we hope that you like them. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and YouTube. And we've took your advice and extended an olive branch to all the tortured souls who have passed through the rooms. Our emotional support group is always looking to help you with all of your needs. And don't forget about our merch store. It is full of epic designs and logos for you to sport, showing the world you are a survivor of these very rooms. All of this can be found in the show notes and on our website at thegrayrooms.com. And let's not forget about the fun we have over on the Discord channel. That's right, we have our own. Hunt us down and join in the chaos today. Join Bob, Todd, the Warden, cast and crew, authors and actors, and just craziness alike in the whirlwind of fun that we call our Discord. Come, join us, and get a behind-the-scenes peek at what goes on in the rooms. We only have a couple more episodes left this season, and we have a lot more work to do. So we're going to get back to that so we can keep you on the edge of your seat. Till next time, we'll see you next week.